This week is Holy Week from Palm Sunday going through to Good Friday and Easter Day, and it's the time when traditionally in England churches tend to move a little bit out of their buildings to be telling the story of Easter in a different way but outside the building. So on Palm Sunday it may be that there are people outside with a donkey, they might be outside carrying palm crosses. They might have palm branches, or in some places we used to use bamboo, large bamboo with bits that waved around. They were brilliant for Palm Sunday. And people will be walking and singing, and the singing always gets a little bit out of time, so the people at the front tend to be a bit ahead of the people at the back, and all those sorts of things. But the church community is out in the community, or at least outside the building, telling something of the story of God and the story of Easter. There may be things further on in the week. There may be gatherings for Maundy Thursday. They often are more inside a building, and then Good Friday there might be a telling of the story of Good Friday outside, or a walk of Christians gathering together, walking from one place to another before having a Good Friday service. Easter Saturday there might be people lighting fires outside as it comes towards the evening time, and sometimes first thing on Easter Day itself people may be outside celebrating with a service, often at dawn. It's a good thing to do. People will be doing it, and that's important because it's the vocation of the church to be telling the story of God. And so this week, as we come to Holy Week, it might seem very small or silly that we're outside with a donkey or some music, singing hymns which are very slightly out of time. But it's a really important thing for us to be doing, to be telling the story of God out in the world. If you come across some of that this week, maybe you could just go and see what's happening and which part of the story is being told. The story of Holy Week, of Jesus, God, and what happens at Easter. This week it's Palm Sunday in the Christian calendar, and we remember on Palm Sunday that Jesus enters Jerusalem on a donkey, and not a mighty steed, on a donkey, and the crowds gather and they are waving palm branches and they are shouting Hosanna, Hosanna, which means rescue us or save us. I really only have two Palm Sunday sermons. There's the one about the donkey, and then there's this one, and this is the superhero sermon, where we think about what it means that Jesus is arriving as a superhero into Jerusalem. Between 2019 and 2021, I did quite an intensive course led by a member of my family on the Marvel superhero films. And I learned quite a lot about what these films were like, you know, the ones with Iron Man and Captain America and Ant-Man and some Spider-Man ones, although Spider-Man is complicated. I'm not sure I ever really understood all that, but these are films which have good and bad. There's a battle, and I'm not sure exactly how many times in the series of films I watched that the universe was saved, but generally it was about once per film. And in these films there is always a huge CGI battle in the third act of the film. Essentially the third act of the film is a CGI battle which the film's been leading up to, and the goodies win. Well, apart from in Ant-Man, of course, where the third act is a really tiny CGI battle where a toy Thomas the Tank Engine plays a pivotal part. But these people are greeting Jesus. They are shouting, "Rescue us, save us," at him as he comes into Jerusalem. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, really not very far away at all, Pilate is arriving with an elite troop of soldiers who are there to protect Pilate and protect Roman hold on the city. Pilate is coming back for Passover so that he can give back the robes to the high priests who need them for Passover week. Otherwise, they are held hostage by the Romans. So Jesus is coming in one part of the city, and the troops and Pilate are coming in another part of the city. And I wonder what people were thinking, what people were hoping. Were they hoping that there was going to be a great third act battle that was going to produce victory and restoration for them? Or maybe they were just hoping that they would survive the Passover week. In the end, after the Palm Sunday procession, it goes a bit quiet, and there's not a big battle, not in the way that people were expecting. There's no great drama or tribulation for people. I mean, Jesus is arrested and then he's crucified. There's another crowd, another rabble of people shouting for Barabbas as part of that process. But when people are looking at Jesus on the cross and saying, "Look, he is calling for Elijah," you can almost feel that they are wanting Jesus' Israelite superhero Avengers to arrive and to fight the battle even at that point. But then there is this great superhero plot twist, and Jesus dies and he's buried. No one's expecting that from their superhero, not at this point. But then comes Easter Day and the resurrection. And Jesus has won the battle, but it wasn't the battle that people were expecting him to fight. So as we come into the joy of Palm Sunday, the excitement, the feeling that the superheroes have arrived, it will be a long and strange journey through despair and pain and disappointment before we come back to victory again on Easter Day. Not the victory that people were expecting, but the victory that God had planned. I've been trying to think about a Dibley moment to have this week, and I just wanted to really say something about what it's like to live in the countryside and the kind of slightly different relationship that you have with animals. So I know I talked last week about the horse in the churchyard, but this week I wanted to say that birds have started trying to break into our house again. So last year we had a bird which used to sit on a door handle by a window, and it was really cross at the bird that it could see in the window, and it was displaying, it would peck at the window, it would fly round, it would fly at the window, and there hasn't been any sign of it this year. But now we have a bird attacking, a different sort of bird attacking a different window. I don't know whether this is going to last very long. Last time it lasted about 4 weeks last spring. So this bird is obviously thinks that through the window is another bird which has territory very close to where it wants its territory, and it's really coming and having a go at the window quite a lot. I say this because it can be quite scary, and we also have magpies who are often trying to get into our windows. You can hear them tapping and banging against the window. I guess they are typically attracted by the shiny things. And then a couple of years ago, where we were living, we had a garden with quite a few nut trees in it, and we had some resident grey squirrels, and it wasn't that uncommon twice or three times a year, I would come down to find a squirrel sitting on the windowsill with both its paws going like it wants to come in. I'm thinking, what are you seeing that you want to break into the house to get? So just a Dibley moment, a moment of warning is that when you do live in the countryside and you feel perhaps that you can leave your doors and windows open if it feels a little bit safer, sometimes I have to shut them because otherwise the wildlife decides they want to come in. That's all for the Dibley Diaries for this week. I pray that you and your village, however big or small, have a really blessed week.